Thank you. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the postponed meeting from the 19th of April, postponed due to the passing of His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh, and so we weren't able to give the 3 days clear notice that's required by law, so we had to postpone until today, the 26th of April. And this is the meeting of the Planning Subcommittee of Hertford Town Council. So we'll go immediately to the agenda, looking at item 1, just to confirm that this meeting is being recorded on YouTube. It is available. Nick, so if you search on YouTube for Hertford Town Council, will you be able to find these meetings? Is that how it's done?
That's correct, yeah. Yes, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to item 2. Any apologies for absence?
Chairman, no apologies.
Okay, then we go on to item 3, which is any declarations of interest. So I look to my colleagues, I see no movement. So item 4 then is to approve the minutes of the subcommittee meeting held on the 6th of April. So has anyone any observations? Would anyone like? Oh, Nick.
Sorry, Chairman. I've just come across my emails. I have got apologies from Councillor Pinkham. Sorry, it was hidden in my emails. Just found it.
Right, if we could make sure that's recorded in the minutes. Thank you, Nick. So we need to approve the minutes of the last meeting on the 6th of April. Do I have anyone to propose them as an accurate record? Thank you, Councillor Newton, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Toega. I suppose we do have to vote on them just to see. Yep, that's a unanimous acceptance. We have a quorum, don't we, by the way, Nick? I'm just checking. 4 of us form a quorum, don't we?
That's correct.
Indeed we do. All right. So we can now move on to item 5. Any matters arising from the minutes not dealt with elsewhere, Nick? So it's paper A. Any updates on paper A?
Yeah, Chairman. Yeah, I've got an update from East Herts Council.
Right.
So in relation to the Rare Breeds Centre, they will be attending there at some point, I think this week. So we should have as soon as we get some further information, we'll be notified. Okay. Right.
So I noticed on paper A that it mentions that once lockdown is lifted, inspections will resume.
Yeah,
and that's right. As far as we've got. Okay.
So that will be happening.
Yeah. Now I did notice that on the 6th of April we asked for an update on the skips at the corner of Wareham's Lane. I'm assuming there's nothing to update us on.
There's no update.
And the last one was the investigation for consent of the erection of a high fence. The land adjoining or adjacent to the quarry on St Mary's Lane. Do we know anything about that, Nick?
Sorry, Chairman. Yes, I believe that's something that was added to requested by, was it Councillor Pinkham, for this meeting to be considered?
Indeed.
So yes. So I don't know if the committee has anything to add.
Well, I wonder simply whether we can confirm with the district council, having had the 2 weeks or 3 weeks notice, that all is thought to be in order in planning terms by the East Herts team. I think we'll find that there is a permission granted, but what I think Councillor Pinkham was driving at is whether actually what is built is what was given permission for. The long wall.
Are you able to seek clarification on that then?
Certainly, Chairman, I can do. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Now I noticed that the next meeting is 1 week away, I believe, isn't it? The day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I'm not sure we might get an answer within a week, but certainly if you can make some representations, we'll find out. Okay.
Certainly will do.
Thank you. So then we move on to item 6. If there are any questions and/or statements from members of the public, Nick?
No representations, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're looking at planning applications on paper B. It's a long list, so I hope you guys are ready. So the first item is 1 Harrison Lane, Balls Park. They want to replace their windows.
And it's chiefly a green belt issue, Chairman, isn't it? So can we dispatch that
windows? A green belt issue. I'm struggling with that, but
yes.
Did anyone have any objections? Nick, there are no objections to that application, so if that could be noted. Oh, you've started screen sharing already. So it's one of the gatehouses, I think, but what they're considering seems to be consistent with pretty much what they've got now. I didn't see it was a huge change. I think they're still going with wood as well.
Yeah.
Which is fine. So there's no objection to that, Nick. Now we come to the artificial grass surface at Hertford Town Council. Sorry, Hertford Town Football Club, beg your pardon. Any observations?
Chairman, I don't think it's a planning issue really that gets in the way, but it might be just worth noting that we have, as a council, indicated that we would provide some financial support should this application be granted.
Right. I don't know again whether it's a planning issue, but I would like a condition to be that it is made available for youth football and not just retained for adult matches. I mean, everything you read suggests that that's the aim, but I don't know whether it, Nick. So as well as noting that Hertford Town Council will be providing funding if it's approved, we would wish a condition of this application being granted that a condition being that it's accessible for youth football.
Was it a little bit more than that, accessible for community use per se?
Councillor Newton, I think that's good. Yes, yeah, I think you're right.
That's what we wanted, yeah, for the community.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't know if anyone's closer than I am to football, but you probably know there's two big youth teams in Hertford. There's Hertford Town Football Club youth, and there's Bury Rangers. Bury Rangers play at the moment on Hartham Common. Sometimes those pitches are quite waterlogged. I don't know whether, Bury Rangers have access to this 3G pitch as much as Hartham Town Football Club will have. I don't know whether anyone's any observations.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe a third team might emerge as well, or competitions, perhaps even school competitions in the winter and things like that. So I think the general availability will hopefully cover it.
Okay. I mean, should we be as specific as saying all Hertford youth teams?
Well, Chairman, I think we can only really suggest a principle, and
okay,
the planning permission can't tie them down to that extent anyway, can it? Really?
Okay, I'm pushing too hard, I can see.
but with you in spirit, and I guess the club is, but that's a guess.
Yeah. All right. So Nick, I think we've said something like available for community youth rugby, football, haven't we? Yeah. Let's get some rugby voices up as well and use it for rugby. Oh no, I'm certainly straying beyond my remit. So we're going to move on now to paper C, which is a little bit more extensive. And the first one is 217 Hornsmill Road. Now these buildings, they're semi-detached and they have a certain shape to them. And I don't know whether when you looked at this planning application, anyone noticed that there will be a sort of loss of symmetry. So they sort of have these angled, I don't know whether gable ends at each end of the semi. At the moment, they have this sort of interesting angular finish, and that's the existing, as you can see. And the proposal is to square it off effectively at one side of this semi-detached, so it will no longer have that symmetry.
Yeah.
Don't know whether anyone has any observations.
I think it's quite important that we draw the district's attention to that. There is one at least good example of where that symmetry has been broken, but not harmfully, and that's at the bottom of Hillside, the little road that comes down at Hillside. But on the other hand, I share your wish, even though we're not in the conservation area, that the pattern of those, they used to call them sugar loaf or farmhouse loaf or something.
Okay.
and they're on all of the estates of 1930, but this is a particularly prominent row. And yeah, I think I agree with you, Chairman. It's important to try and retain as far as we can.
Right. So Nick, did you sort of capture that, or do you want me to put a few more words together? Or you're muted at the moment, Nick.
Chairman, yes, I did catch that in terms of trying to keep retain the
characteristic shape or something.
existing. What's the style called? Sugarloaf or
Sugarloaf 4.
Important.
Okay, we'll move on to land at Carmelite Monastery. Councillor Newton is muted.
Yes, I wanted to hear Councillor Newton actually on this one, particularly.
The Carmelite Monastery land, the Carmelite Monastery is not just our neighbour, but we are tenants on 2 fields of theirs with our farm. So I think I need to declare an interest. But what position do I have to speak or not to speak?
Nick, I'm looking to you for authority here.
I mean, I'm quite
You're
happy
muted,
to myself for you to debate and make a vote. But I do have a view, but I don't know if I'm...
And it depends on the level of your interest. If it's a DPI, then I don't know whether Nick's with us or...
Yes, I am, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, it's your turn.
If it were just
that's correct.
a neighbour next door, with no particular interest in them whatsoever, except that they are neighbours, that's one thing. But the issue I have is that as we are tenants of 2 fields that belong to the Carmelites, which are added onto our farm, you could say that we have more of an interest than them just being neighbours. So
I think on the side of safety, Councillor Newton would be.
I think I need to go, don't I?
I think Councillor Newton, yes.
I do have a strong view on it. I'll have to leave it to you.
Yeah, you can always go on the portal in a personal capacity and obviously put your.
That's what I was going to suggest.
Yes.
Yes, I would suggest that.
I'll just disappear for the moment then. Okay.
Thank you. So, does anyone want to start on this one? I mean, I'm sympathetic to their needs, but I'm not sure that outweighs the damage to the green belt.
Yeah.
In summary.
Yeah, I mean, it's tucked away amidst the private land, but I agree with what you're saying. That building doesn't trouble me too much, but is it a thin end of a wedge?
Is this how they're proposing to fund, their ongoing monastic duties? I know that they're an aging population, but to my mind, it's not an appropriate or sustainable approach to take in terms of funding.
Yes,
Councillor Ruffles is quiet on the matter.
Well, don't like to come into much in a way, Chairman, but the green belt openness, and that the word openness is the key one, will be damaged by this. So the judgment must be whether, in fact, the applied for use is sufficiently important in planning terms to justify the overthrow of the green belt restriction. And I don't think the financial state of the convent probably rates very highly in the consideration.
In planning terms, no.
But it's not nothing, but I don't think it really is a controlling factor.
So I'm also with Councillor Torrega that not thin end of the wedge, but we have to be consistent as well. And I think that the case is not being made that the loss of openness of the green belt is, you know, that the need is outweighs the damage to the openness, and therefore I personally would wish to object to this application.
I support that. Yeah, from what I've heard, yeah, I think yes, definitely that's go against it.
Okay, I'm also a bit concerned that it's inappropriate development and there's a lack of access for a residential dwelling. There's obviously agriculture, there's farms along that. If those of you know how Park Road is, you know, it's a dirt trap really. It leads to farmhouses, you know, and for agricultural use ultimately, and to start residential dwellings in that area, I think would be inappropriate. So those would be our two counts on which we object, Nick.
Pity, but
yeah. But then again, you see, if they've got land, they could sell off a plot of land or something, couldn't they, for agricultural use or something? I'm sure there's a market. I don't know. But, unfortunately, not this. So we're going to move on to 5 Morgan's Road, and I don't know how we get Sally Newton back. Sorry, Councillor Newton back. Oh, there we are, by magic. So we're going to move on to 5 Morgan's Road. There was an earlier application last year for a single-storey rear extension, which we have no objection to. It's now larger. The extension they're now proposing is larger than the last application, and particularly on the side 2 elevation, which where the pointer is at the moment, the windows are larger as well. So they've now gone for these sliding, large sliding doors. But having said that, it's at the rear of the property. These are large plots, aren't they?
Yeah.
Does anyone have any observations?
I'd be supportive. I think proportionately, it's a huge pile of a house, and I think although it's a larger extension, I think it's acceptable.
Yeah, I'm certainly of that view. So there's no objection. I'm just looking to my other colleagues. Yeah, there's no objection to that then, Nick. And we're going to move on again to Pimlico House. So we've seen this come to the committee on several occasions. Now we seem to have 2 alternates. One is 7 residential units, the other one is 10. It's been refused. The last time it was refused by the district council was on the grounds of parking.
Yeah.
And only on the grounds of parking.
Yeah.
We had concerns about whether it was suitable. We regretted the loss of office space in the town, and we had concerns regarding parking, how the building was going to be heated, bin storage, visitor parking, and none of those things are addressed by either of these 2 applications.
Chairman, do you remember the number of units?
10.
10.
So we've the same again, and therefore the parking, unless there's a change in the parking pattern, we couldn't really take a different attitude, could we, to the 10?
Well, I don't understand why they've reapplied for 10. There's 2 parallel applications here, one for 7 and one for 10. I'm still not satisfied even with 7 residential units, because obviously they're going to be larger and therefore more likely to have double, 2 vehicles if they're 2 bedroom or young family type dwellings, rather than individual dwellings. They're more likely to have 2 vehicles, and so there's insufficient space even for 7 residential units in my view. It's not a suitable, well, I'm not comfortable with the idea of this being converted for residential use. It's a very small plot and there's very limited parking. Is anyone anything else to?
I would support that. I'm happy to. Yeah.
So
I have to say I agree with you, Mr. Chairman.
yeah. So Nick, I don't know whether you want to seek out our previous comments on the 10 dwellings, but they remain. I did
Certainly.
paraphrase it.
Will do, Chairman.
Yeah. As far as the 7 residential units are concerned, our concern would be that the larger properties are likely to be young family, more likely to be young family, and therefore 2-car ownership families. And so the parking issue isn't resolved by having fewer units.
No, parking standards may be different though to what you're suggesting in terms of the likely need.
Right. But all it does is put further pressure on the surrounding roads. And we know already that West Street is a nightmare for parking, which would be the immediate area that would be sought by residents.
So are we're pretty consistent on not wanting to lose the offices, is that?
Yes, indeed. It was purpose built, I think, for offices, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Offices, yeah.
Yeah. So if we could move on to 3, the Vineyard, St Leonard's Road. There's another Greenbelt property in the Greenbelt, but quite a prominent property, especially when you're walking up the hill from Harton Park to St Leonard's Church. It's a very prominent site. What's being proposed is on the downhill side, if you like, so visible from the bottom of the hill looking back up. Does anyone have any observations?
It is, as you say, a very prominent building. I thought it was discreet enough. I mean,
yeah.
But
any other comments? Is it? You can't really argue that it reduces the openness.
no.
So what's our overall view?
I'm supportive, but how do you feel about the listed building side of it? It's the building itself is more than just in the conservation area and more than just one of the views in the Bencher neighbourhood plan landscape. I'm not raising it because I have an objection, but I just wonder whether we ought to pay attention to that single element. Is it subservient to what is the ancient listed property? I believe it is, but I just think we ought to be sure.
I believe it is as well, and there've been additions over the years, so there's this sort of interesting mixture. There's this thatched, I guess that's the original purpose of the listed building, was the old thatched part of that building, but there's been sort of bits added on through the years, and I do feel this extension is subservient to the building and doesn't impact the green belt, and therefore we don't object to it.
No, I'm happy with it, Mr. Chairman.
And actually, if anything, if you've seen it, it looks a bit untidy at the moment.
Yes.
Tidy it up a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we move on to 96 Fulbridge Rise. So once again, we have some period. I think these are semis, aren't they?
Yeah, semi.
Yeah. And of course, a loss of garage.
Yeah, lots of garage. That's all we can say because it's similar to other ones, and they haven't asked for a Gillette balcony yet, unless I've missed it.
They haven't got one.
They haven't asked for one. I don't think. Because
I don't think we should go making suggestions like that, Councillor Toega. Are there not enough Juliet balconies in Hertford already? But overall, this sort of loss of symmetry, is it an issue?
I wondered, Chairman, if Councillor Toega can tell us about the Seal neighbourhood plan. Does it address the loss of garage issue. The Benjo one does in a way.
Oh,
The emerging plan.
it does address loss of garage and loss of front gardens as far as I remember, but it's such a long time ago.
Yeah,
Sorry, but
yeah.
they wanted, yeah. I
mean,
think it's loss of garage because they're going to fill in that gap above the garage as well, which other people have done. So it's hard to object, really.
So the
no.
property on the right, by the way, or I say the property in the middle, I suppose I'd have to say, because as you say, it's filling in just to the left of your arrow, Nick. If you just slide it across a bit more there, yeah, it's building up there to fill out that spot there.
I can't see a problem.
No,
Does it take away then the? I've forgotten. I did look at this a couple of weeks ago. Is that side extension still set back a bit?
no, it's right up to, as far as I know, it's right up to the front.
Well, I personally would find that the biggest single issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it would just square the building, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and doing that, it gets towards the terracing effect. It's that setback for me is very important.
Oh. But there are other houses in the road that are square.
No, I don't think so.
No?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it is fairly standard practice on those semis, the 50s semis on that side where Hollywood School is. Quite a few of them have gone close to the barrier across the front. This extension, the current extension, is unusual in being set back.
This isn't the Hollywood School side, is it? It's the other side.
Yeah, but facing the school,
Yeah,
facing the school.
yeah.
If we could just see the photograph again, Nick, if you've got that to hand. You know, the picture of that was the one, yeah. Oh, there's another one there, a bit closer up. So it's that loss, that filling out of the corner there, Councillor Raffles, that you have concern with.
Yeah, I'm in a minority. If it were set back a few inches, I'd be happier. But I think that takes away some of the interest of the property, and it does suggest a tendency towards terracing, which we don't have at the moment. I'm happy to be in a minority one.
I agree with what you're saying. I think it's that and the loss of front gardens. It seems to be a lost battle in Fordwich, really. It's a shame, but at least they're keeping the archways.
At least we've retained the archway. Yeah.
Keep that.
Yeah. So do we want to say something about the terracing effect? What's the overall view?
Well, you can mention it as
Yeah.
a consideration. I mean, obviously, East Herts will ultimately make their own decision, won't they? But
yeah.
I
So
look at it.
perhaps we could just say the committee note that by extending the first floor extension to the front of the building, there's a loss of
Character?
A loss of interest in the outline, a loss of quirkiness. I don't know. What's the word we're looking for?
Actually, I just think it's squaring it off is rather nice.
I thought it, yeah.
No, Chairman, I don't think you should. I feel I'm very much on my own on this one, outvoted.
No comment, I think then. That's very gracious of you, Councillor Raffles. Yeah. We'll go with a no comment and we'll move on to 25 the Wick. So there was a PNHH application rejected on 25 the Wick. So this is obviously on what's the name of that road? It'll come to me in a minute. Well, it's off. It's as you leave Bengio, the left turn. What's it called?
Sachem Road.
Pardon?
It's off Sachem Road. isn't it?
Sachem Road. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you, Councillor Ruffles. So it's that new development off Sachem Road, and I don't know what a PNHH application is. It didn't come before us, but it was rejected by planners, and so they've now put a full application in. It's a whole width single story rear extension. Does anyone have any observations?
Well, I would say that is unattractive, but a lot of them have it, don't they?
They do. I think it's useful in this view just to see.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's a semi.
yeah.
Thank you. And taking advantage of this sort of end.
Yeah.
Does seem quite large in relation to the overall building.
Yes.
Take up a lot of their garden.
Yeah, but they've probably got larger gardens being an end
Mhm.
unit than others.
Yeah.
Any other observations for anyone?
Oh, any weight about the wheelchair access and the purpose? I know we're talking planning for a much longer term than an immediate need, but I just wonder whether there is some weight to give to that, positive weight.
Yeah. Perhaps a committee note that the single story extension will provide disabled access. Or additional disabled access. Do we want to comment on the scale, or do we leave it at that?
I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Okay. Move on to 35, the Briars. And this is up on Foxholes. It's one of these corner plots. I wasn't sure whether there's this one we've considered in the past, or
I just always think of foxholes. Can you actually put anything more in foxholes? I mean, look, you can see it's density.
Indeed.
It's phenomenal.
I mean, it's
However,
if anything, it's becoming even more of a concrete jungle. And here you have a nice bit of greenery where the pavement suddenly runs out, and you're going to fill most of it with a extension. I think it's inappropriate, really, for a location. And if the opposite people do it as well, then you're creating a tunnel, actually, and people have to walk in a road almost. It's not. That's just too much concrete, really.
it is.
I think the committee would be concerned at the loss of amenity of the green space,
Yeah.
even though in their application it says it's that they own that land.
Well, so do a lot of people who own land who want to just go and do stuff with it, but that's not
Yeah.
meaning they
Yeah.
can.
The next application is a similar example, isn't it?
It is,
Yeah.
and also at the moment that's used for parking, that area. So it's actually, I think it's gravelled over or something like that. So it's not even green space at the moment. And so where are their cars going to go? It's another concern. They've obviously, I don't know whether they ever had a garage, but they've obviously filled in the garage.
I mean,
Yeah.
really,
So I think we'd have
doesn't
concerns
sit
about
well
the loss of amenity, Nick, and loss of parking, resulting in more on-street parking congestion. And then, as Councillor Ruffles rightly says, we're moving on to 90 Ladywood Road, which is more of the same. This time, this is off Thieves Lane, you know, in Seal, which is, I think, even more densely built than Foxholes, Councillor Newton.
Yes, and this is a very different location. This is on pedestrian paths, this particular site.
Indeed.
Yes,
Which,
one of the plus points of that estate is that you can actually, there are walkways without cars, and you have greenery on either side. Who owns it is another issue, of course, but that central walkway is quite pleasant at the moment.
yeah,
And if boxes it in, it'll be awful. Next thing you know, they'll apply for an extension.
So I think the committee object to the erection of a fence because of the loss of amenity, and because of the right of way. Is it? Would we have to say across that land?
Well, if they own it, it's not, but it's just that it's continuous from the public to the private. But it's the green aspect as you walk through, and if they're going to box half of it off, even though they own it, it's enclosing the estate, really.
Yeah, because it's not greenbelt, and I'm just trying to. But there's this loss of amenity in terms of this green area, and that open route that runs through
Yes.
Ladywood, the Ladywood estate.
could we just look at the fencing arrangement?
So I think there was I don't know whether it was in the design access statement. There was actually a picture of the fence, and it's just,
Yes, that's what I wanted to make sure the committee looked at. I think we're dealing with the principle, but the actual we've had an application for a fence which was only 18 inches high on this estate, which was refused, and another 18 inches high which was granted.
there's a certain symmetry to the current fencing in terms of alignment with the end of the building, or I presume that.
Yeah. I think we probably agreed on the principles, but I just felt we ought to look at the detail to make sure that we really were strong in our feelings, as it were.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, dear.
Exactly.
Sorry, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, should we say
oh, dear.
it would... yeah, that's it there, isn't it?
That's against a road. This is...
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's it there.
Yeah, that's existing, and it could come out.
We could we say something like the existing line of the fence that leaves a large open space, which would be lost by the construction of this new fence.
Yes.
It would be a shame to lose that. So then we move on to 32 Sandy Close.
This is only a minor change to what we saw last time, isn't it? Really?
It is. And actually, again, it's one of those where, I mean, it's a large plot. It's right up in the corner, if you know Sandy Close. And, gone Australian, but oh, here we go.
Cool.
Thank you. At the moment, there's this sort of flat roof at the front. Looks a bit incongruous. So it's on the right-hand side, I think, the north elevation, which is the front. So they've got this sort of flat roof at the front at the moment, which is quite strange looking, on the first floor. So just there, yeah. And what they're proposing to do is actually, I think, create a bit more interest in the roof line. I have no issue with this.
It looks much better, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'll say it's a large plot, so there's no objection, I think, Nick. And then 14 Manor Close up in Bengio. So they're very faint, I found, when I was looking at these on screen, but single story rear extension. Any observations? I had no real issues with this.
No, I think it matches the neighbour, I think. Not right. There's already a party wall.
There is a party wall, yeah. So, no objection, is everyone agreed? Okay. So we're going to move on then. Having considered paper C, to look at decisions received from Hertfordshire County and East Herts Council. Paper D, any observations from paper D? Don't appear to be. So we'll move on to item 9. Are there any licensing applications we need to consider, Nick?
No, Chairman.
No. Okay. Thank you. Incidentally, I had my first pint of beer since Christmas, I think, sitting outside in Parliament Square.
Was it cold?
Bloody
Not beer.
freezing. Excuse my French. and I put on an extra couple of layers thinking I'll be fine. And then when my feet started to go, I thought, no, okay.
That's the one.
So a pint was enough, really. I don't know whether Councillor Ruffles has imbibed, but
Oh, yes. And
it was nice to be out, I have to say.
Yeah, yeah. Short dose and home.
Indeed, and there was certainly no trouble late at night in Hertford. I think everything shuts down, doesn't it? Fairly early. So yes, I was very disappointed. I had to take my son, unfortunately, to a minor injuries unit in schoolboy foot injury or whatever, usual stuff. And it took us 2.5 hours. And by the time we got back to Hertford at 9:45, there was the only place we could find food, do you believe, was the Bosphorus, is it called?
Oh,
Yes, I think you will know where I'm talking about. And I regretted it the following morning, but it didn't do the whole. Sorry, I digress. Yes, and we're actually looking at a new record. If we get to item 10, correspondence. Nick, is there any correspondence to be considered?
Chairman, two bits of correspondence. We have an appeal for Mayflower Close, for 5 Mayflower Close, Hartlebury. We had an appeal, letter of appeal notified to us. That's going to appeal for the 21st of May. Okay, and the other one is the other bit of correspondence was an outcome on the decision for the Tesco licensing committee meeting that we attended.
Yeah.
So the licensing appeal was granted for Tesco's, subject to some additional conditions. The additional conditions are the license hours on Sundays are from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The subcommittee felt that this was a balanced and proportionate time period to allow flexibility within the legal trading hours under the Sunday Trading Act. And the second condition was the seasonal variation of 24-hour alcohol sales between the 30th of December and 2nd of January each year is granted, apart from on Sundays when existing licensing hours will apply. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Yes, it'll be interesting to see the impact that has around Tesco when they do introduce it. And obviously licensing matters can be reviewed, can't they, if it is found that it does cause potential public nuisance, which was our concern. Thank you very much, Nick. So it only brings us to item 11, which is any items for future agendas. Oh, I thought for a minute Councillor Newton was putting a hand up.
Nope.
No, we have a record to meet. It's 18:45, Nick, and I believe our business is concluded.
Wonderful. Thank
Wonderful.
you. Mr.
So you see
Chairman.
what happens when Councillor Pinkham is. No. And we're live on YouTube. He'll probably comment on it next week when we meet again. So I immediately withdraw that remark. I do apologise, Councillor Pinkham. It was said in jest. And I hope we're able to close this meeting.
Thank you very
Good
much.
evening, everyone.